Yeah, hi Vinay, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Vinay, I've just pinged you something. Could you please reply for it?
Yeah, I've seen that. I haven't sent that. Anyway, I'll respond to Aditya, are we expecting more people to join or should we start? Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. So we'll start the session. Maybe a few people may join a bit later. That's okay. So let's do a brief recap on what we were doing. We were discussing problem of the backpack and the thief. And why we are discussing this problem? Because this would be a simple problem to start with, where we can apply certain principles of computational thinking, and we'll see that how we can formulate this problem in a manner that will become much easier for the computer to understand. And then we had gone to the Colab notebook. So I request all of you to open your laptops, and we will start a few things we will do parallelly while I do it here. I would request you to also do the same things on the Colab notebook so that you get familiar with how to work with the Python code. But before I go there, I mean, any of you have some prior experience of coding in Python? Any of you? Okay, so have all of you opened the laptops at your end? Then I'll give you a few instructions. We'll do a few things hands-on.
Yes.
Okay. Then what we'll do is that just type there Colab. You can search for Colab Google. Then you'll get this screen, Google Colab. Click on that. Since I have a few files already, it will show me. Otherwise, we'll just start with a new notebook. And then you should have a notebook open where you can just give some name here, and you can, so that will become the name of the notebook. By default, for you, it would come as untitled one, or
just untitled. Suppose here I am just giving a name as session 2. You can give any name that you want. And if I click outside that, the notebook would be saved with the name that you have given. Have you all reached here? Please keep giving me the confirmation so that we can proceed. Okay. So just 1 minute. I will change the background color as one of you have requested. Is the screen visible and better now? And all of you have been able to open a notebook at your end?
Yes.
Great. So now let me explain a few things that we will be working with. So here on the right side, you will see something as connect. So if you click on that, then it will connect you to the Google environment. And then we will have the access to the computing power and all the backend infrastructure which Google provides us along with the notebook. And once it is connected, you will see that RAM and disk, and then you will see a tick sign. That means that we are all set to start. On the left side, you will see two plus buttons, one with code and one with text. So we can create different cells. So if you see the Python, any of the Python notebook, the most popular notebooks, if you want to work with it offline, you can download the Jupyter notebook. And for working online, Colab is the best one. So this workbook or this notebook that we are opening, it will be saved on your Google Drive. So, if you open up and if you log in with your Google ID, everything that you work will be saved automatically in your Google Drive. So if you see here, there are two options. code and text. One will create a cell in which we can enter the Python code, and the other one would be creating a text in which we can enter some description. So let me start with text, and maybe at your end, all of you can also do the same things that I am doing here. So I'll click on text, and here a text box has opened. Now I can type here. This is and as I click outside of this, you see that this one has been saved as a text. The code, the cell where we can enter code, you will see this play sign on the left of it, and that play sign is to run the code that we will be typing. Then at each of these cells, we have these buttons to take the cell up or down. So if I want to take that cell above, then I just click on this one, and you see that the first cell has become, this is a test notebook. That's how we wanted to start.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a connection to option host and local. Which one we will go?
Hosted runtime.
Hosted runtime.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you just click on the connect without going into the drop down, it will automatically connect with the host.
What's the difference between connecting as host and the connecting as local?
Yeah, so the local setup, since we are not having any of the libraries locally installed, so if you say local, I don't think it will get you the access to the Google servers. So, and also since we have not really downloaded a copy of that locally, it's we will be working with the runtime host of Google itself.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. So now that we understand how to, and if I want to create a new code line or new cell for the code, I click on code, and you see that a new cell has been added. Okay. That's the basics of the notebook. And just as you see in any other application, you will have things on the top. We will touch upon some of these gradually as we do. So for example, finding a file, opening a new notebook, opening an existing notebook, uploading, renaming, all these things that you see in most of the application would be available with the notebook also. Okay. Now, so if everyone has got their notebook open, then we will start with a few basic concepts of Python. And I will open my notebook here where I have already created certain commands to understand Python. And then I would want you to start doing the same thing at your end and let me know if you're facing any problem. So before we go to the actual lesson on Python or actual starting lesson on Python, we'll just do a quick recap on what would be important here. And as I was emphasizing yesterday, that the computational thinking is the key which will guide us through the entire process on how to derive the insight from data, which is the main thing that as data scientists we would be doing. So to be able to derive the insight from data, we have to work with data, and we have to work with data through certain platform, through certain language. So if we are asking the data to perform certain function, or if you're asking the machine to perform certain function on the data, then we have to speak in the language that machine understands. And that's what all these different programming languages are, like Java or C or C++ or Python. These are the different languages through which we can speak to the computer. And as we have different languages which we speak, uh, similarly, there are different languages which has been designed through which you can speak to the computer. And Python has become the most popular language. I will just show you a small video on how Python has become the most popular language and gained the largest market share. And its rise is coincident with the rise of machine learning and AI/ML. So, you're able to see the screen where this video is playing?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Sure. So you see that we are in 1996 Q3, and Python is not even there in the top 10 or top 12, 13 languages. Python is not even there. So let me play it. So now you see in 2001, Python comes in the top languages. And this point onwards, you see that Python starts growing very fast, starting 2010. So you see that Python started becoming very popular starting around 2010. From there, the growth has been very fast. So while Java and JavaScript started stagnating around 2012-13, Python continued to grow, and today it is the most widely used language. And some of the reasons why Python has become the most widely used language is its wide use in machine learning, data science, artificial intelligence. In fact, it has become the language to use in these areas. And also, it is the most popular language for developing different types of applications on the internet and the mobile apps. So the backend wiring, and when I say backend wiring, it means that the connectivity on the internet between one application and the other, that's best done through Python. So these are the two main reasons why Python has become the most widely used language, and that's what we are trying to learn today. So is the white theme better for you, or is the black theme better for you? So I have shown you both application. Whatever is easier to look at from your end, I will switch the theme to that color.
White is better.
White is
Why?
better. Okay, so I suppose this one would be better at your end. Sure. So the first thing that we learn is how to, and all of these things which we are going to discuss today, it will be I will share the notebook with you, so that even if you want to revisit and re-practice, you can always do that. So you can open this document, you can open another notebook at your end, you can see what has been done in this notebook, you can try to do the same thing at your end in your own notebook, and that's how you would be able to understand and practice a few basic concepts. The first thing that we need to learn is how do we put a comment. A comment is a line in the code which will not be executed when we are running the code. So for example here, these two that we are seeing on the top, these are anyway the text part of it. So you will not even have the option to run this code because that play sign is not available beside the text boxes. But when we come to the code cell, the cell in which we are writing a code, we need to, if we want to write a comment, it means that the system should not recognize that as a code and it should not try to execute that line. And writing a comment is important because when we are writing a code, many a times you would like to put a comment there so that you can see that why that code was written, or you may want to write a brief explanation of the code, that why what was that code for, what is the context for that. So in Python, the comments can be written in two ways. One is the single line comment and second is the multi-line comment. The single line comment starts with a hash. As you can see here that I started with a hash, and then I say single line comment, and I can write anything, and Python will actually ignore it. So Python will start executing. The first it will see that there is a hash, it will ignore this line. Then it will go to the next line and try to execute whatever is written in the next line. And that also until it encounters a hash. So I can put a command, I can put a comment either as a full line, or I can put a hash and write my comment after I have written my code. So in both ways, a single line comment can be written. Then a multi-line comment is written like this. So if you see here, I start with 3 quotes, and then I can go on writing, and until it encounters another 3 quotes, it will ignore the entire block. So Python will start seeing that it encountered the 3 quote here. Now it will ignore everything until it encounters another set of 3 quotes. And that's how we enter the multi-line comment. And after that, whatever we write, that is the part which will be executed. So let's see here. If we are saying x is equal to 1, so x we are defining as a variable and we are assigning a value of 1. That's how we operate in all the programming language. So equal is the word which is used for assignment. And when we say assignment, we are assigning a value of 1 to a variable x. That is what is being done in the second line here. The first line would be ignored by Python. Now, when we assign a value of 1, another thing that you will see in Python, that if you just write the variable name, it will show you the value of that variable. So either I can do that. So let me run that. To be able to run the cell, I just click on. It is taking some time because this notebook was not connected. So as you can see that it is initializing, connected, and then the cell has been executed. So now onwards, it will execute immediately. So I said x is equal to 1, and then just typed x, and that means show me the value of x, and that value has been shown here. Now, some of you who have done the programming in the other languages like Java, the code is not executed like this. So first you write a code in Java, then you compile the code, it creates an executable file, and then you execute that file. But Java does not work like that, and that's why it is called that Java is an interpreted language. And interpreted language means that the interpretation of whatever we are writing here into the machine code. So what happens is that the machine does not really understand the way that we write here. So in many of the other languages, there is a compiler. Here also there is a compiler, but the compiler actually runs in the backend in the runtime. We don't have to compile the code individually. So what the compilation of the code does is that whatever we write here, it converts it into a language which can be understood by the machine, and then the machine executes that. So if you see here, we don't have to compile the code because Python is an interpreted language, and that means the conversion of whatever we type to a language in which the machine can understand, that will happen in the runtime. And so as we click on that cell, whatever we have typed, that gets executed. And that is one of the great benefits, because then it avoids you from the process of writing the code, compiling the code, running the code, and then you debug the code. Here it is so simple. If I find that there is a problem in the code, I can debug here itself. So for example, rather than saying just x, I want to print the value of x, and we will see that there is a problem here. So there is a problem here. It says that missing parenthesis in call to print. It means that I was supposed to have printed, I was supposed to have put the x into a parenthesis, because that is how the print command works. So print command expects a parenthesis after we type print, and then whatever we want to print, that should be put inside the parenthesis. That's what the error has been done. And I can correct the mistake. I can run this again, and I can see the result. If you are doing the same thing in Java, first you will write the command, then you will compile it, then you will run the compiled file or the executable, and then you will get the error. Now you can see that how simple Python has made the entire process of writing the code, debugging the code, or writing the code, testing the code, debugging the code, and then running the code. So that is one of the main reasons why Python has become so popular, because it is so friendly for the people who are, not pure developers. And if you see the origin of Python, the Python was used mainly by the academicians, the engineers, the researchers, who were not really programmers by profession. And that's how the language has evolved, keeping in mind, or language has evolved for the people who were not really programmers by profession. And that's how some of these very original or very intuitive things have come into the Python language. And that's one of the reasons why learning Python is so easy. So we have learned about the comments. So we'll keep toggling between the presentation and the notebook, so that we can discuss the concepts as well as we will see the execution of those concepts. So as I was mentioning, that Python is an interpreted language. and therefore there is no need to compile the code, and it shortens the code, test, and debug cycle. So we have shown you the comments. The comments can be written in two ways. So the summary of whatever we are going to discuss will also be available to you in the notebook. So I'll share that right after the session. And then we'll go to the next thing as variables. So variables, briefly we discussed yesterday. Variables are the things to which we assign certain values, and we will operate with those values later on. So if I say x is equal to 5, it means that we are assigning a value of 5 to x. Similarly, we can assign either a number. There will be different types of variables, and these variables can be numbers, it can be string, characters, or it can be a list or a vector, and there would be many other types of variables that we'll deal with. So the variables can contain a value, it can contain a vector, it can contain different other types of things which you will get introduced to gradually. But today we'll talk about the variable and which are of the nature of variables which can contain a number, the variables which can contain a string, and the variables which can contain a list. So these are the three things that we'll deal with today. Other variable types we'll get introduced to as we go along. Now, when we come here, you see that we are assigning a number to x. That is, x is equal to 1. And we are assigning a string or a word to x. Whenever we want to assign a string or a word to a variable, that will be put inside a quote. So if I want to assign a number, I don't need a quote. If I want to assign a word or a string, we'll put a quote. Now in Python, it does not really matter whether you put a single quote or a double quote. So it will work the same way. So I can put a single quote. I can change this to double quote on both sides, and then it will work as is. Now, one of the things that you will see here, that in many of the languages, you have to first assign what is the type of the variable. And when we say type of the variable, it means that whether you want x to be containing integer value, or whether you want to be x to contain a float value, it means that a number with decimals, or whether you want x to contain a string value, those things need to be defined upfront. For example, in Java, you just can't say x is equal to 1. You have to say int x is equal to 1. It means that first you are saying that my variable x is of the type integer, and then you can assign an integer value to that. Now that need not be done in Python. So Python, you just define a variable name, and depending upon what is that you're assigning to that variable, it will automatically understand that now x has become of the type int. So I assigned 1 to x here, and then by asking the code to show me the type of x, I can get that what is the type of this variable. So if I assign 1 to x, you see that when I fetch the type of x, it is showing me that this is an integer. Now, otherwise in Java, you would have to define that x is an integer upfront. So I would have typed int x is equal to 1. Now I can assign India to x and look for the type of x, and it will show me that it is in a string. So I did not have to define the type of the variable. Depending upon what is the variable that we assign to, what is the value that we assign to the variable, the system will automatically assign a type to it. And that is the reason that Python is called dynamically typed. It means that the type of the variable will be assigned dynamically. So Python is a dynamically typed language, and that is another great benefit, because as a developer or as a programmer, we don't really need to worry about the type of it. The system will automatically define type. I don't have to deal with different types upfront. And then you can see that I am assigning a list or a vector to X, as we discussed yesterday, that if you want to create a list, the list has to start with a bracket. And then inside, whatever the elements we are going to put, you can, those elements need to be segregated by a comma. So that becomes a list. So if there are several elements separated by a comma is put inside a bracket, that becomes a list. Now we are assigning the value of this list to X. And then if we are typing, if we want to fetch the type of the X, you can see that it is showing you a list. That's how we assign different values to the variables. Okay. Now, when we deal with the different types of the variables which are numbers, in Python, we'll deal with 3 types of numbers: integer, float, and the complex numbers. So let me demonstrate to you. So I will assign first X is equal to 5. The moment you put a decimal, then Python knows that it is a float. Not really, it's not too much of a concern to us because this is a dynamically typed language. So wherever we need to deal with numbers with decimals, I don't even have to worry about that. I need to define that variable as a float variable. Otherwise, it will not take decimals. The moment I say X is equal to 5.0, now Python assigns a float type to it. So what is happening in the background, it's not that much importance to us, but there would be certain operations which will change the nature of the type of the variable, and that is what we'll see here. So I can assign an integer, I can assign a float, and when we do the operation between 2 integers, a multiplication operation or an additional operation, the variable will still remain an integer. If I say X is equal to 1 plus 8, and both of these are integers because I have not given a float, the output will still be an integer. But if I add an integer and a float, the system will automatically convert this to float. So some of these things need to be done manually in many of the programs, and as you can see that those things are completely eliminated in Python. So it will automatically convert this into a float. And then as I can see that 5 in the first instance, it is an integer. 5.0 is a float. The third operation which I did is an integer. And the fourth operation which I did is the float. So far, so good. So now, if you have not been doing it already, I would like you to just enter some of these basic commands so that you get your hands onto the create a cell, enter just X is equal to 1, and then print X, and then run the command so that you see that how you are typing in the cell and how you are running the cell. All of you have done that already, or you won't take some time to do it? You need to keep responding to me, otherwise I wouldn't know that whether you have been able to hear me properly or not. Have you been able to enter at least one command? And okay, good. So Hemant has already done that. Okay, so we'll continue to move. Now we will just see a few operations. Those are the fundamental operations that we'll do with any other language. So first operation was the assignment operation. So we assign a value to a variable. And that assignment, as we said, is obtained through the equal to sign. So if I say x is equal to 5, it means that now x will be carrying a value of 5. And that's what we have seen, that when we say type x, it is showing me the value, whatever was assigned to it. So I say x is equal to 1, and then say type x, it is showing me 1. If I assign a value of 5 and ask for the value, now x will show me as 5. That's what the assignment is. Assignment, so the variable can be assigned a numeric value. The variable can be assigned a string value. It can be assigned a float value. It can be assigned a list, or many other types of things that we'll see in future. But the assignment process will remain the same. Now the mathematical operations, very simple, but we'll just glance through it. So x is equal to, I can just say x is equal to 2 into 4. And then if I print the value and also the type, so also see that whenever I want to see the value of any of the variables, you can give a print command, and print command will be followed by a parenthesis. And inside that, we can put multiple arguments. So the previous one, I put a single argument where I say type of x, and then it is shown to me. I can also put a print command here. So print the type of x. So as I said that if you don't give print, even then it will show you the value, but that value would be shown only if this command is the last item in the cell. So for example, if I say here, still it is only showing me, and if I put a hash here, that means that now it has become a comment line. It will not, the Python will not recognize this line, and it will, so x becomes the last value, and then it will print here the value of the x. So I assign a list to it, and it is printing the list. But if I want to print both x and type x, then I'll have to give, if I say here print x, then you see that it prints both. So if you don't give the print command, then whatever is we are typing in the end, that will be printed. But if I want to print both of these, I have to give the print to the previous command. So it is printing the value of x. And even though I have not given the print command for the last line, it is still printing it. But I can still give the value. I can say print type x, and then it has shown me that this is the type of the x is list. Or I can print both of these in the same command, and it will print both of these. So when I give the print command, I can put a multiple variables here, and will print these variables one by one. I can also add here, so I can say that this is the value, and then give a comma. So it will also print whatever I am typing within the quotes here. And then I can say this is the type, and then again. So it will print these 4 arguments. This is the value. Then what is x? Then it will print a string called this is type. Let's see. So this is the value. Then it prints x. Then it shows this is the type, and then it prints class. So that's how the print command works. And print command is a very useful command, because when we are doing any kind of operation, or when we are writing any kind of program, you would like to validate intermittently that it is doing the right operations or not. So I am doing an operation, say x plus y. If I want to see that whether it is taking the right value or not, I can say print x plus y. So I know that that operation has been done properly. So the print is a very useful command, and of course is a very powerful command. I have just given a simple way to concatenate different values, but we can do the print in a much refined fashion that we will talk about as we go along. So we have talked about assigning a value. Then the values can be assigned, or different mathematical operation or the arithmetical operation also can be done. We just need to see that what are the symbols that we use for doing these operations, and that is the key to notice what we are going to discuss now. As you do in most of the other programs, if you want to multiply two numbers, we put a star here. So if you want to divide, that is simple. But the thing to notice here is that if we divide, so if we divide these numbers, the output will be actually a float. So I was experimenting with three earlier, so I think 2 by 3, and that's why I have put here 0.666. But anyway, this part will be ignored by the code. Now there is another operation where you will see the double slash, and that is called the integer division. It means that it will only, the output or the x will only take the integer part of whatever is the output. So 7 by 3 will be 2 point something or 2.333. But the output that x will give to me will only be 2. So this is called the integer division. Then the percentage one is for the modulo operation, and the modulo means it will only show you the remainder. So if I divide 7 by 3, the remainder is 1. So the system will show me the remainder. So 7 percentage 3 will show me the remainder, that is 1. If you want to put a square or raised to the power, not the square, when you want to use the raised to the power, in Python you would be using double star. In some other context, you will be using a hat sign there, but in Python we will use the double star. So these are the symbols for the mathematical operations, and it's also showing you that what would be the output. So again, after typing it, we can run this command and you see the output. You'll also see that in some cases your output would be very long, and it will, then my scrolling becomes longer. So if I, after having seen the output, if I want to close it, I can move my mouse here, and then you will have a cross sign. If I click on the cross sign, that output will be removed. So I can run the cell, I get the output. If I don't want to continue to keep seeing this output, I can come and close this. There will be no harm done. Then we come to the another type of assignment, which will be used in many of the programming language, and sometimes it becomes a shortcut and easier way. The first assignment that we had done is x is equal to 3. The second assignment is x plus is equal to 5, which actually means x is equal to x plus 5. So here, if you see, the meaning of this is x is equal to x plus 5. This command can be abbreviated as x plus is equal to 5. It means that x plus x is equal to 5. So if I print here, it is giving me an output of 8 because initially the value of x was 3. Now when I am running the second command, that is x plus is equal to 5, at this point of time, the value of x is 3. And then I am saying that x becomes 3 plus 5. So it will put the value of 3 here, then add 5 to it, and then assign the new value to x now. And therefore, the value of x now is x plus 5. Some of the very basic thing that many of you would have done earlier, but just even if you have done that earlier, it would be a good refresher for you. This is how we can do the assignment also. And this, we can continue with the minus sign, plus sign, all the operations that we have seen above, we can do that. So now if I say x minus is equal to 2, let me close these things. I will ask some of these questions to you so that you understand the assignment operation also very well. So now the value of x is 8. When I am reaching the next cell, the value of x is 8. And this command x minus is equal to 2, this one is actually what it means is that x is equal to x minus 2. So what's the value of x here? The value of x when we come to this cell is 8. So 8 minus 2, that becomes 6. So now the 6 will be assigned to x, and when we print the value of x, I should get a 6. So I get a 6. When I move to the next cell, the value of x is 6. And when I say 6 star equal to, that means x is equal to x into 4. So 6 into 4 should be 24. So when I am printing 24, printing x, now the value is 24. When I go to the next cell, my value of x is 24. And when I'm saying x divided by equal to 3, that means x is equal to x by 3. So x by 3 will be 24 by 3, that is 8. And therefore, I should get a value of 8 here. Whenever you do a division operation, as you can see here that 8 is coming with a decimal, whereas 24 was an integer until this point. Now x has become a float. So the output of any division operation will give you a float. Not that we need to worry about it too much, but just to see that whenever you do a division operation, the output would be a float. And then if I see x modulo equal to 3, when we come, so the value at this point of time is 8. 8 modulo 3. So if we divide 8 by 3, my remainder would be 2. And therefore, I should be expecting an output of 2. If you see that this had become a float, so now we get 2.0. And now when we come to x raised to the power equal to 3, it means that x is equal to x raised to the power 3. The value of the x before we come to this cell is 2. And therefore 2 raised to the power 3, it should give me 8. All of you are with me? And maybe you can take 2-3 minutes to enter some of these things in your cell. If not all of them, just a few of them, and see that you are able to get the results.
Vinay, I have a doubt here. Sorry to interrupt you. See, in each of the code line, we are just trying to do one action on the X, right?
Yeah.
So can't we do multiple actions on a particular variable in a single code line?
Yes, yes. So the cell that we have here, in one cell, if you see that I have already given here 2 commands in each cell. So there is no limitation on how many command lines you can put inside a cell. So for example, if I want to, in this cell itself, if I want to do this, so you can come here, you can just paint it, Control C, come here, Control V, okay. So now let's see what should be the output here, because, and that's maybe another thing that I will like to point out, that now the last value which we have, last value that x is carrying is 8 here, because that's the last operation we had done. The value of x is 8. Now when we come to this cell, And if I want to run this cell, the value of x is actually 8. Whereas when I initially ran that cell, the value of x was 24 because that was the last operation I had done. So if I run here, x divided x is equal to x by 3, it will become a fraction. So it will become 2.67. And then if I say x modulo 3, it means that it will give 2.67 divided by 3 and find the remainder. So I think the output should be 2.67. Let's run this. You see? So we can have any number of command lines within a cell. But I have chosen to, at this point of time, to show you so that each operation could be shown separately. And when I print x now, it will show me the value of x, last value of the x. So before this command was given, whatever is the value of x, that is what is being shown. Is it clear? That why the values have changed? Because first of all, the last cell I had run, that was carrying the value of 8. And therefore, when I run this cell again, it will operate with the last obtained value of x. And that's why we are getting 2.66 after the 2 operations that we do. Clear?
Okay, here the order doesn't matter, right? Because, you know, in this particular code cell, we have done x divided by 3 and then the module of 3.
Yeah.
So the x is not considered as 24 here.
No.
Yeah, x is considered as 8, I think, right?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
And that is what you will see that in Python, since you write the code in different cells, if you want to run the previous cell, do not expect that the value that you got earlier, you will get that, because you are running things in a sequence. And then if you come and run the command in between the sequence, sometimes you may wonder that last time I got this result, now it's different. So for example, last time I got the result as 24. If I run it now, it will not be 24 because now the value of x is 2.67. So it will take x is equal to x into 4, that is 2.67 into 4. So it will be maybe 10 or 11 point something. So it is giving you 10.67. So sometimes, because of the structure of the Python, which goes cell by cell, and we have the freedom to execute any of the cells independently, sometimes you will get confused that last time it gave me 24, now it is giving me 10.6. It is because of the, when I run this cell, it will take the latest value available for x, and then this operation will be done on the last value that has been assigned to x. Now, to be able to handle that, because if I want to get the same results again, I would have to start running the cells from the beginning. So since the first time I did the assignment here, I can run this cell, then I'll again go and run this cell. So that's what you need to do. Or you have an option here. Suppose if I want to run all the cells after this, so I'll come here, and then I come to runtime, and then I can say run after. It means that all the cells after this cell will be run automatically. So if I say here run after, you see that all of these cells are getting executed automatically, and all the cells after this would be done. So now we come back to the same numbers. So I have the option to choose a cell and then say run after. So all the cells after that will be run automatically. We don't have to go and run it manually one by one, but we always have the option to run each of these cells manually. Okay. Now we have dealt with the numbers. You said that there are 3 types of numbers that Python takes. We would be, in all likelihood, the kind of operations we would be doing. We'll be dealing with only float and integer. Then there is another type of variable which will come very handy in many situations, which is called the Boolean. And that variable takes only two values, true or false. Or it will be 0 and 1. So those are called the Boolean variables, where it takes only the true or false value. So for example, if I want, and let's get introduced to another symbol here, which is the double equal to sign. And if we saw earlier that this equal to sign is used for assignment, but if I want to really see that whether 5 is equal to 5 or not, then I have to use this equal to sign twice. Okay, equal to, or if you see here, this will mean not equal to. So if I give an exclamation mark, that you should read as not, and then equal to, and this one is testing the equality. If you give a single equal to sign, that will be assignment. Okay, so that is also a very important thing to note down. So I am testing that whether 5 is equal to 5 or not, and the result should be true. So, and that would be a Boolean variable. It is showing you 2. If I give here 6, the output would be false. Okay, so important thing to note is that we use the double equal to sign if you have to test equality. Single equal to sign will be used for assignment. If I give exclamation mark and equal to, that means not equal to. And then in the Boolean operations, if there are two operations we are doing, and if both of these are true, the output would be true. If one of them is false, the output would be false. So for example, when I say 6 is greater than 4 and that is greater than 2, it has inherently two operations built. So first it evaluates whether 6 is greater than 2 or not, and 4 is greater than 6 is greater than 4 or not, and 4 is greater than 2 or not, and then it will show me the combined results. But if I say 10 is greater than 4 and 4 is greater than 6, the first one is true, second one is false, so I'll get the output as false. So the Boolean variables, very simple to understand, but it's very useful at many points where we will assign just a true or false value to these variables. Then we come to string, and you will be operating with strings also very frequently. Here we are assigning a character or a word, or for that matter, a series of words. So it need not really be only a single word. If I say India is great, and then say X, it will print India is great. So whatever is put under the quotes, and as we discussed briefly earlier, that this can be a double quote or this can be a single quote, does not matter for Python. So Python is completely agnostic to a single quote or a double quote. And so whatever you are more comfortable with, you can use. So even if I give a single quote, it assigns the value of whatever we have written inside the code to X. And if I want to see the value of X, I just write X, or I can also write print X, and it will show me India is great. Okay. So we can use a double quote, or you can use a single quote. Both of these are fine. Now in Python, as in some other languages, there is no distinction between a string and a character. So if you are typing a single character inside the code, Python treats that also as a string of a single character. So in some of the other languages, you will see that you have two different types of variables, character and a string. In Python, we don't distinguish. And that's one of the other simplification that Python has, that you don't really need to deal with character and string separately. Now, by default, when we define a string as a variable, that string is by default Unicode string. I think UTF-8 it takes, and therefore the pictures, smileys, some of these things can also be assigned to the variable. So if I assign this smiley and then say print A, the smiley is also now assigned to my variable. And as we have seen earlier in some of the print commands, now we can do the string concatenation. So if I say y is equal to I love my, and earlier we had assigned x, the last value is India, and a is a smiley. So if I just say y plus x is equal to a, now z will become a new string which is concatenating the value of y and x and a in that order. So if I want to print the value of z now, it will now show I love my India and along with a smiley. That's how you do a string concatenation. Now we can concatenate a string, but I cannot concatenate, or I cannot add an integer to that. So if I want to add an integer, then it will show me an error. So Z is a string. I am trying to add 3 to it, and then you will see that it will show me an error. Now you will also see that if there is an error in running the cell, this play button will become red. The moment you see the play button is red, that means that some error has happened. And while in this cell, I have only 2 lines typed out, and you can see the error also. In some cases, your cell will contain a longer command, and then you don't have to scroll to find out that there is an error. This will become red. If every line is run smoothly, then it will become black. So now if there is an error, it will also show you what the error is. So it is showing you that must be string, not int. Okay. So it is also pointing out, if you see there is an arrow here. So if I have multiple lines in my code, it will point to the line in which the error has been found. It is showing that there are 2 lines in my code, and the error is occurring in the second line, and the error is that it must be a string, not int. So how do I resolve the problem? I need to convert 3 into a string. So I can do that. I can convert 3 into a string, and then I can type here, and it shows I love my India, and 3 also has been added. That's how you do the string operation. So the arithmetic operation on the number we have seen. The typical operations are plus, minus, multiplication, division, raised to the power. And 2 things which we commonly not use in Excel or other things is the integer division, and that was the double slash, and modulo, which shows you the remainder, and modulo is shown by the percentage sign. So we have seen until now the assignments of number, assignment of string, and then now we come to the assignment of list. So far so good. Any question? So I'll treat the silence as if there is no question and continue to proceed. Yeah, Hemant.
So, Vinay,
Yeah.
for explaining purpose, you are explaining in individual cells, right? Or else we can write in a single code, right?
Yes. You can write multiple. So that demonstration will come now. So if you see here in the this cell which I am highlighting now, if you see there are multiple command lines.
Okay.
So in this cell, it will execute line by line. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So now we deal with the list. List, as we have seen earlier, we have seen the how to create a list earlier. So a list starts with a bracket. Inside, I can put many elements, and those elements need to be segregated by a comma. So I assign this list to a variable name myList. So you can give the variable name whatever you want, and we talked about it yesterday, that you should actually give the variable names which is more explanatory. So, and that's also because whenever you type something in Python, it remembers the names of all the list. Why we become a bit lazy? Because if I want to give a very long variable name, then every time I want to use that variable, I have to type the entire thing. But I'll show you that actually Python remembers that, and you don't have to really type everything. So let me add one more cell here. So if I want to say add one more cell here, what do I need to do? I just go and click on plus code. So it will add a code cell just below wherever my cursor is right now. If I say here plus code, you see that a blank cell has come here. Now I want to demonstrate to you that how the Python remembers several things, not just the commands, but also the variables, so that you don't really have to type out all the variables when you're doing it. So first, let me run this cell. So I have run this cell. I'll come to what is happening here in a moment. I just want to demonstrate that now that I have run this cell, now my list, now if I want to do some operation on, say, my list, so I'll type out my, and you see here in the bottom, my list has come automatically. So I don't have to type my list. So even if I have given a very long name for the variable to ensure that I recall what the value which I have assigned to that variable, I don't have to type the entire thing. So it will give you a prompt here itself, and I can click on that, and that will come here. Same thing will be there with different syntax that we use. It will also show you what that syntax is and what should go inside the syntax. So for example, if I type here, so you see here, as I started typing, it also shows you that starting with PRIN, there is a command called print. So I don't really need to write print completely. I can just click here and the print command will come. So remembering the syntax also is very easy here. The moment you have the first 2 or 3 letters of the syntax known, Python will prompt you that these are the possible words that you could type. So let me start again here. If I start here, PR, you see here, so these are the possible commands. There is a property command, there is a print command. So I can come and click on print. And then as I give it, you also see that now it shows you that what are the other parameters which print as a command can take. So print, it can take a value. Then other parameter I can type is the separator, how it ends, and there are a few other parameters. So for every command, what are the different parameters that you can define will also be prompted to you. So it's a very easy thing to do. You don't really have to remember too much. Coming back to this cell, now I am assigning a list to my list, and then I can print the value. Okay. So let's see here, after assigning this value, I can say here print, and then my list. So if you see here, my list has already come, and I can just say print my list. Now at sometimes, if this value is not coming, because of, it takes some time to fetch the value, but if it is not coming, you can press Control and space. So for example here, if I print here Control space, you will see that it is showing loading, and then it will show different values. So if it is not loading by itself, you can click Control and space, and then you will see the different commands which can, or different variables and different commands which I can possibly put there, that will come there. So I put M, and then I start getting the list here, my list. So first it will print whatever I have assigned to my list. Now if there is a list, I can always append other values. So I can append Ram to the list. I can append another list to this list. So if you see here, 11, 12, since that is put under the bracket, that is another list. So I can append. So all of these will become different elements to the moment I say append, it will become another element in the list. Now you are noticing that in the Python list, all the elements need not be of the same type. So in the first list, all the elements I have entered here is all integers. Here I am adding a string. Here I am adding another list. And then if I give a print command here, let's see. So first print command is my list after I have just assigned this list of integers. So it is only printing the integers. After that, to the same list, I append Ram. Ram is an integer. Ram is a string because it is put under the quotes. So the moment anything is inside the quote, Python treats that as a string. So even if it is not Ram, it is a 5 I put under string. So let's try out. If I put 5 here, but since this 5 is within these quotes, now it becomes a string for Python. So let's print that again. You see here, so the first one remains the same. The first is all integers. After that, this 5 is being shown under quotes. It means that this one is a string and not a number 5. So if you want to do a mathematical operation on this 5, then you will start getting an error. Then we appended another list. So it is showing as another list here. But we also have a command called extend, which will just take the values of the list that we give and append to the list as individual elements and not as a list. So if you see here, the difference is that I gave an append command here, and the entire list is added as a single element. If I say extend command, then it will take individually 13 and 14 and add this as different elements of the list. So that's how the list can be created, list can be assigned, and list can be modified. Okay. Now, once you have the list, and I think that's all the time that we'll have today, but it's to complete the slicing of it. Once I have the list, so if you have a command line or a text line which I want to remove, then you can come there and there is a delete sign here. I can just delete that. Okay. And if you want to bring it back, you will have the undo sign, edit, undo, that cell comes back. Now, if you want to delete and undo some things inside the cell, so what I showed you was deleting and bringing back the cell by itself. But if I am doing some operation here, and if you want to delete and undo inside the cell, it is Control Z. So for example, I was deleting here, and now I want to bring it back. I'll click on Control Z. So it brings me back. So if you are doing any cut operation and undo operation inside the cell, Control Z, as we do in most of the application. And if you are deleting a cell, then you have to go and undo that through edit, so that will come back. So I am deleting this here. Now, if I have a long list, one of the things that we need to address is that, okay, which one is the 5th element in my list, or can I get the 5th and 6th element in the list? So that process is called the slicing process. So I will show you that how to get the different slices of a given list. So first one, we are saying my list, which is the list we want to refer to. And if I put within the brackets and if I put a number, it will show me the element at that particular location. So each of the elements have been given an index value. And if you put the index value here, it will show me the output. So if I say my list 0, so all the indexes will start from 0, as we discussed yesterday, that the index count does not start from 1, it will start from 0. And therefore, when we say that show me the 0th element in the list, it will pick up the first element. Okay. So I am trying to show you two things, which is the element at the place 0 or at the index 0 in the list, and which is the element which is at the index 8 in the list. So we'll print all of these and then try to understand them one by one. So this one is the execution of the first command. So if you see in the list, the last value of the my list is printed here. This one is the last value that we have got. The element at the 0 index is 0, so that prints 0. The element at the 8th index, so here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. At the index 8 is actually the value 7, so that is printed here. So when you count the index, start counting from 0. And since I'm asking for show me at 8th place, it actually means 9th place because you start the index from 0. It actually means that show me the element which is at the index 8 in my list. And that's how I got the value of 7. Then if I say my list 2 and then colon 5, it means that starting the index 2, show me all the values until the index 5. So it shows me 4, 6, 8. So if you see here 0, 1, 2. So at the index 2 is 4, and then it is showing 2, 3, 4. It has not shown me the 5th index. So that's how the slicing works. So when we say 2 colon 5, it will take the index 2, but it will ignore the index 5. So it is up to 5 or until 5. So I get 4, 6, 8. If I give just the colon and 6, that means that this one shows you the start point and the second one. So in slicing the list, if I give two numbers separated by a colon, the first one is treated as the starting point and the second one is the ending point. Ending point is not included. But if I don't put the starting point, that means start from beginning. If I don't put the ending point, that means go until the end. So I don't have to know how many numbers are there in the list. If I don't put the starting point, it will take all the values from the very beginning. If I don't put the end point, it will take everything until the end. So my starting point is 3 and it will go until the end. I can also define the starting point and end point and give another column and put another value. So that means that starting from 2 up to 14 and show me every second value. So the last 2 is actually showing me, show me every second value. Okay. So let's see these things first, and then we will come to rest of these. So just let me. So you see that I am commenting out these things so that these 3 would not be executed anymore. And we will first try to understand the first line, I suppose, is clear to you, that how we got 0 and 7. The second is, we discussed that how we start from 2 and go up to 5, but not including 5. So I got 4, 6, 8. Now I say from the very beginning until 6 element. So it should show me 5. So it should show me 6 because starting from 0. So it will show me 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 not included. So you see here it is showing me 5 elements. Then I'm saying starting from the third, go till the end. So it is showing me starting from 6. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So third, the element at the index 3 is 6. So starting from 6, it shows me everything else. Then I say starting from 2 until 14 and show every second element. So if you see here, it is starting at 2, which is 4, and then it is skipping 6 and it is going to the every second element. So 4, 8, 3, 7, 10. Now if you see 11, 12 is a single element, even though it's a list by itself, but for the my list, this 11, 12 is an element by itself. So that's how it shows here. Now let's see the next one. So this slicing I can do in the reverse order also. So if I give a -2, it actually starts from the 14th, it goes up to 10th, and it shows me every second element. So I can do in the reverse order also. Now if you see, what I am doing here is very interesting. That I am saying that if I don't define a number, it means that it will be from the beginning to the end. And then if I'm giving -1, it means that starting from the end, show me all the numbers. So actually, if you see, if I print this, the entire list will get reversed. If you see, the last element has become the first element, and first element has become the last element. So if you have to reverse the list, we can just give ::(-1). And we can print things in the reverse order also. Okay, so that's how we take the slice of the any list, and the same thing will actually work on a string also. So for example, if I put here my list is equal to let's see if it operates, what results do we get. You see here, now I have assigned India is a beautiful country to my list as a variable. And then I say my list 0. So it will show me the 0th element in this string, and then the 8th one. So if you see here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th is just space. And here it has put a space here, and that's why it is not visible, because the placeholder for the index 8 is a space. So that's how we do the slicing. And then we can find out the length of the array. So it is showing 28 because right now the value of my list is India is a beautiful country. And if I run this again, and then I click on the length of my list, I have 15 elements here. So going from 0, here I have 15 elements. So it will show you how many, the length command will show you how many elements are there in that list. Then the last thing that we'll cover today, and just give me 1 minute, is that if you want to find out whether something is contained in the list or not, you can just type 8 in my list. So it will show me that whether 8 is in my list or not. Let's see. It is showing true because 8 is there in my list. 18 in my list, it is false. And then it says that 8 in my list. Why the third one is coming as false? Because in the first one it said true. And why it is coming false? Because now we have put
It's a string.
8 under string. So if you see here, 8 is not here as a string, 5 was as a string. So if I try these two with 5, I say here 5, and let me change even this to 5. Both of these should come true, because 5 as a string and 5 as a number, both are there in my list. Any questions so far? So this worksheet I will share with you. It will be good if you take out about 15-20 minutes later on and try to practice each of these on your own in your own worksheet. So I will share that with you. Any questions so far? So
Nothing from me.
So if none, then we'll close the session today. And starting tomorrow, I would want to go a bit faster, but please feel free to stop me if you think that I am going a bit fast, because understanding and grasping the concept is more important than the speed. Okay, so I'll share the notebook with you, and I suggest that you practice it so that when we start the session tomorrow, you are at least familiar with these concepts, and we can move a bit faster. Okay, then we'll end the session now, and we'll meet again tomorrow at 7.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good day.
Thank you.